It's
Wednesday. Smell those eggs and bacon. It's time for Breakfast Talk, a podcast discussing current, independent, and mainstream entertainment topics, from gaming and movies to comics. Start your week off right with the Breakfast Boys. As always, if you can smell what we're cooking, click that like button, and if your tummies are rumbling for more, click subscribe and ring that brekkie bell to turn on all notifications. All right, let's talk.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about the plot of Suicide Squad, the new one, not the old one.
So
Yes.
Even though it's just called Suicide Squad, it's not even called Suicide Squad 2, but it is the second one because it is in fact after the first one, which is tricky because they're both called the same damn thing.
Them's facts right there.
So, yeah.
Well, the first one is Suicide Squad. This one is the Suicide
Oh, like Batman and the Batman? God.
Yeah.
Bang, bang.
So we're going to start off. The plot is obviously terrible. It starts with the word "the." Instead. Unnecessary. No. So let's actually start with like how the Suicide Squad's formed in the beginning of this one, because that's, you know, if we're going to be breaking down the plot, we might as well go from intro to outro and then talk about the what's it called, the end scene.
Well, firstly though, like, so the plot is pretty much exactly the same as the first one. You have
the squad forms.
You're right. Your set of squad, but even the character types are even kind of similar, right? So like
They got an assassin.
exactly,
Or
it's like
a hitman, like a mercenary.
a hitman who's a black guy who's doing, you know, who has some motivation or attachment to his daughter. He obviously has
It's like-
special skills, and they basically have to take on kind of like a world-ending kind of threat. That's a very like huge threat, and yeah, there's this.
and they have a character who has an issue with, like, you know, people around him, and ends up being a semi-hero and dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Wow.
It's a very.
Oh, and Harley Quinn's in it. It's almost the same movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
The only difference is the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the director. And, you know, some of the actors. So.
It's the James Gunn movie.
Yeah. That's what it should be. It should have been like, you know, what was it? The Justice League Snyder cut. Like, this should have been like the Suicide
cut.
Squad James Gunn cut. Or yeah, Gunn, you know, reloaded, you know. There you go.
Fully loaded.
But yeah, so that is super interesting to think about too. Like, yeah, so like when they're picking out the cast of like who's going to be on this Suicide Squad, right? They are going through and they're collecting. It's interesting. I'm trying to think about like who they all can join with. Like Bloodsport, obviously Deadshot. And I was referencing, what's it, Diablo? Is that who it was? Compared to Polka Dot Man. Because, you know what I mean? They both had, like, these life issues where they didn't feel like they belonged anywhere, and then they both become a hero at the end, but they die doing it. And then Harley Quinn's in it, so that's just the same person. I'm trying to think. I can't remember all of the...
Besides her, like, character growth, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this time she just kills people and, you know, talks about it. No.
It's a red flag.
Yeah. What was the or who were the other characters in the first one? There's Boomer, right? Boomerang.
Well, you have Katana.
She was kind of like the peacemaker of it in a way. Not she wasn't evil, but she was like, she's there, but she was kind of like not a bad guy as much.
Was there somebody who turned on them? I feel like there was, but like I can't think of who.
Harley technically she like, you know, communicated with the Joker so he could try to break her out.
Yeah.
So technically she's the one who kind of turned on them, but she didn't really
she was
turn
like,
on them.
She was like Blackguard, or not Blackguard.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. She's Pete Davidson in the first one, except she didn't die. Oh,
I mean, it's a
spoiler.
Anyone here who didn't watch it and wanted to watch it, it's their fault.
Sorry.
I'll give you a hint. They all die and none of them die. It's a Suicide Squad. Some of them are going to die.
They all commit suicide.
Actually, it's funny because even though a bunch of people die, a bunch of people also don't die. even though like they did die, but they didn't actually.
They're not even the true Suicide Squad. The first true Suicide Squad is Star Wars Rogue One. So
yeah, he gets it.
Yeah.
See, look, Buttercat thought it was funny.
He's constantly laughing though. You see that face?
That's why he's with me. He's having a good time. But yeah. So, anyways, I think that like I was saying, started with the intro to the actual setup. I think that it's interesting that we get a little more behind the scenes of like the other people that work at what the hell is it called? What do they call their headquarters?
Is that Argus?
No, is it? Is it Argus?
It was part of Argus. No?
Maybe it is Argus. I don't know. Maybe they don't mention the name specifically, but either way, like their headquarters, you actually get like introduced to like the staff there, like the normal people. I thought that was pretty interesting, like showing how there's a bunch of normal people working there that don't really know how in depth or insane their leader is, and like I thought that was a very cool setup. Because obviously there's a reason they were doing that, so that the ending has that option. But yeah, I think it was very cool to like see that. Like think about it, Steve from IT who's working at this place.
I like the bearded fat guy. I don't remember his name, but he's like, I'm really good at my job.
Yeah, that guy. But like that's what I mean. Like it's funny because it's kind of like that guy at IT at work, and you're just like, oh yeah, except he works for like a group of criminals who are used as assassins for the government. Like it's super interesting like how they portray them. Like they're just like, oh, this is a secretary, this is the accountant, this is a Steve from IT, right? And there's the Suicide Squad. They're ex-villains that we can blow their heads up if they look at us funny. So it was kind of like cool how they set that up. And then the way they introduce the characters, they make them interesting. Like King Shark, when they first showed him, like it was funny because like I actually couldn't remember if King Shark could talk or if he just yelled. And one of the characters even asked that, like, does he talk? And he says something. He's like, like just like how they got introduced. Is Hector frozen? I just saw him. I just heard him laugh. Oh, there he goes. I heard him laugh, but like his camera like glitched for a second, so that
I don't think he can see us though. No.
Well, he can see us, but we're black squares.
I can see Greg's face. He's like this now. He's like this.
He's actually like that right now.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Rooting, so.
Yeah, and like how what was it? Polka Dot Man? Like he comes through and he's just getting like torn apart at the prison yard, and they're just like, oh, look at the guy who throws polka dots, and like you have no idea what he does for like a really long time, and even when they finally like get to the island where it all starts. Like you just see him go off to the woods to take a piss, essentially, and you just like see like rainbow confetti lights going off, and you're like, "What the hell's going on?" So like it was definitely interesting. They really held off on showcasing what the characters could do for a very long time, and like the first person they show is Savant, and he gets killed really quick. So it was definitely cool that they didn't showcase as much as they could have for all the characters. I like that in the beginning. It was a very cool start to that.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? What are your comments on the beginning?
I think it was actually a much more fitting. Like they set the tone really quickly for the movie, and I thought that was honestly a really good thing because again they kind of addressed things like, okay, so you know what the team is already, you know what our deal is already. Like so they it's like they addressed that. And that kind of, again, like when the plot starts to repeat itself, it's kind of like, well, they already said it. They already said, like, you already know what we're all about. You already know what we're doing. Like, this is it. This is the movie, right? So they set this tone of like, it like humor that overlays this kind of like, I don't know, like again, it's kind of it's the same plot. We got to go in and do this dark stuff, right? And Amanda Waller is just going to be as dark as she was in the first one. She doesn't. She's very apathetic, and that's like, it's funny because she's kind of like how Peacemaker is, right? Like she's like anything for the end goal, right? Like so, no matter what it is, no matter how dirty it is, like I'm willing.
How many dicks I got to eat off of this?
Exactly, that's Amanda Waller.
And I just realized too, like aside from that, even the setup of the movie where they send Harley on a mission with Rick, and yet that whole team gets wiped. So it actually, like, it sets you right up, like, because I guess technically I skipped that when I was talking about the beginning. Like, they set you up, showing that they actually have more than one team. I think that's the other cool thing. Like, as opposed to just going like, oh, there's the Suicide Squad. It's like it's just the name of whoever they send out, and that they're willing to send out multiple groups was also cool, because if that's the case, that means if they make another movie, it could be like other people that were sent out. It could be even at the same time, like as this movie. Like there could have been another squad sent out someplace, and like the fact that they do that, Harley ends up living, and so does Rick. It's Rick, right?
Yeah, except there'll be a little difference in the next one. But
yeah, you back?
Yeah,
we're back.
Yeah, I was saying, like, it's interesting that the way they set it up, whatever the next one is, like they could actually have another squad that was sent out during this movie, and like they could even play off of that, because now we know they send out multiple teams, even if it's just for diversions or whatever it is. And so like it was interesting that they actually started off by assembling the team. You thought like, oh, this is gonna be the movie, like we're gonna deal with these Pete Davidson, so it was like really interesting, like how they set up your certain set of expectations, immediately murder them, and then they start off with that cool transition of the blood in the water, saying, I forgot what actually, did that just say the title of the movie, or what did it say?
I can't remember.
Oh, damn, that's gonna.
I think it did.
Blood in water transition Suicide Squad.
I think it said Suicide Squad.
I think it was like a chapter introduction. So
yeah, that's what I was trying to remember, if it because they all had like chapter title. Oh, what the heck! Give me all these ads. I get it. Here you go, Harley Quinn. This is the last one. Dang it! I need tools. Anytime past months. There we go. Image. Someone had to have gotten an image of this thing.
Yeah, the fact that they have this, like you said, they set up this initial team that's basically just like a cannon fodder team, right? And even mid mission where they're like, yeah, we're screwed. Like, there's no way we can win this, right? And Amanda's just like, yeah, it's a tough team. Don't worry, like you guys will be fine, kind of thing. It was like, again, emblematic of how little she really did care about, like, the team itself, right? So like, she has at the same time this kind of like sense of like it's like she's putting together this team and she's doing it because she cares, right? But then at the same time, she really doesn't care at all. Like, so she just has this very like dualistic side to her where she's very much on both sides of the spectrum. Like, she's heartless, but at the same time, she has this warmth. It's weird.
Yeah.
Which is great. Like, as an actress, like, her being able to kind of, work that spectrum at, in this movie is great. She's the perfect fit for Amanda Waller, I think.
Oh yeah, she's insane.
She's insane.
She's mental.
Weasel was pretty good in that movie.
Yeah, I felt like it would have been nice if we could have gotten maybe a little bit of Weasel before he passed away.
Got off. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, don't forget, we're gonna get more of him now.
Spoiler.
Yeah. It's gonna kill more children,
right?
Is that what he did? I forgot what it was.
Well, that was like, they said he killed like 47 children or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it said Warner Brothers Picture Presents. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the very next one was 3 days earlier, and it shows like a toilet seat, and then it shows the assembling of the real team.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just looking at all the transitions. Actually, Greg, let me grab the screen. Can I share the screen? Share screen. Yeah. Share. Yeah, just to showcase you guys like what these, how much work they put into this. Like that's pretty in depth. We've got, Warner Brother Picture Presents the toilet with like the foam or whatever on the toilet 3 days earlier. Now, when it catches up on the beach. Meanwhile, Harley and the Roots bring me the heads of the Suicide Squad. I don't even know what that's in. It's like dirt, but I don't know what the hell's written on it. Yeah, and then Operation Jotunheim, and then I got switched to Operation Harley. Like that was that one I was referencing in the last episode. The idea that they like had the flames in the background, then they actually dyed it out and pulled it back up for the right one. So yeah, it was very cool. All of their scenes were very cool. Starro the Conqueror. Also, did anyone else see Starro the Conqueror and immediately think War of the Monsters, the old PlayStation 2 game? Because that is exactly what I thought. And even like it looks like an 80s Godzilla movie. And I love the fact that what the hell is it? The guy, the guy you mentioned, the big guy with the beard, he immediately responded with something along the lines of like, "Oh shit, we got a kaiju!" Like,
Yeah.
it was so perfect. That's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah, I've never played that, so.
Yeah. For anyone who hasn't played War of the Monsters, you're missing out. I think it's on what is it, like the PlayStation Store for like $5, and for the new ones like PS4 and 5, I think you can get the old PS2 game for like $5. I immediately bought it. I'm like, I have to get this. I used to play that more than almost any other game on that console, next to like Tekken. Yeah, definitely awesome.
Yeah, so the intro was pretty cool. How did they introduced everybody, and then everybody had their little like moment. I think like on the helicopter, like Pete Davidson did. He had his little moment until he didn't anymore.
Also, what did you guys think of like how they started introducing like the starfish? Because like it started off like the first story, like they don't tell you how big the thing is, right? Like it starts off as this thing that like NASA or some government space entity ended up finding in space. It was just floating there. Oh, always lost Hector. So now it's up to you, Greg. What are your thoughts on how they introduced them?
I thought it was okay. I kind of, the only thing in that entire plot that I don't think was really needed was the Thinker.
Hector, yeah, I was gonna say, Hector, did you hear my question too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Greg's going first. What do you mean about the Thinker? Like what about the Thinker? In the past, you mean?
I just think the Thinker was wasted, and then he was literally wasted.
Wasted.
Yeah, they could have like used him for something else, but you just killed him in that movie.
Yeah, they didn't even just kill him like they could bring him back like Peacemaker.
No,
they splattered him.
Yeah,
they ripped him in half and then splattered him against the inside of a giant tank.
So I was like, that's kind of annoying because he's
Flashpoint, guys. Flashpoint.
Yeah, that's what I was saying last time. I was like, oh well, if you watch episode 23 when that pops up.
Yeah, depending on how much they actually utilize Flashpoint, like they could do so much. That's why I'm saying, like, if they use Suicide Squad as like the starting of this universe and then enter Flashpoint, that would be such an interesting way to skip so far ahead into like the multiverse style concept that.
Isn't Ben Affleck's Batman in that too?
In what, Flash?
I thought he was in that too.
I think it's supposed to be like 4 different generations of Batmans. That's why what's his face?
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton's in it. Yeah, and I think he's supposed to be. If I remember correctly, I think he's supposed to be the old man version when Batman Beyond exists. Yeah, so that'd be fucking awesome, dude. If they pull Batman Beyond into Flashpoint and then make it, I still am blown away that they haven't made a Batman Beyond movie.
I saw a TikTok that was actually describing how both Marvel and DC are like now doing the whole multiverse thing. So,
well, that's the point of like the Flashpoint. Flashpoint essentially is the multiverse overlapped on the same.
But they're like literally both doing it at the same time. So they're kind of like trying to, who's gonna win?
Yeah. You decide.
Because DC kind of lost the first round, the first 10 years. They're like, huh?
Well, no, it's funny. DC wasn't losing. They had the Dark Knight. You know what I mean? They had Batman Begins, the Dark Knight, and what's it called? Dark Knight Rises that were coming out for all that. Like they had a great run of movies that was its own universe. They just weren't universe building during those last 10 years. Or, I guess 12, 13 years, I guess. And like now that they're trying to universe build, they were doing a terrible job. But like we discussed last time, like having the Suicide Squad and or Flashpoint as like the real, Iron Man starting point of this universe would be a phenomenal way to do it. Starting off with the villains or starting off with a tear in the universe is a pretty interesting way to start a universe.
That's how they should do it, because.
But yeah, so Hector, I guess before we tangent too far off into the other stuff, what did you think about like how they introduced like the main bad guy, the kaiju, at the end? Like not how they introduced him at the end, but like this, like even how they, you know what I mean, like the lead up into that. Like how do you like plot wise? Or they just showed him floating in space and they picked him up and they're like, oh, it's the starfish.
I guess it made sense. I think based on the history of the character, I think it's different, obviously, than like his original kind of, again, like comic book iteration. But I think in terms of the movie, it made sense, and I think it makes sense that they chose him, I guess, for like the kaiju effect, right? Because like there wasn't really that many rules surrounding like something like Starro, right? So like he's kind of this entity that first of all is not super well known. He's not a like very focused on villain character, and even in some comic book iterations, he's not a villain.
I was about to say, I just looked him up. I didn't realize how old he was. His first appearance was in 1960.
Yeah,
damn.
And I remember Starro as the like legit, like he's the one who like he first gets onto Superman, and then like because like Superman's like under his control and stuff, and
that's what I thought. Yeah. And actually, I just saw the first one he was in Justice League America. That was like the first like iteration of the Justice League. I could see in the picture, it looks like Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern.
Yeah, and he like takes over the Justice League essentially, and I forget like who saves them, like one of the JL members.
No, it's not Batman.
But yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was he was a cool villain, and he wasn't really a villain in this either. He was kind of more of a victim, if you're being.
At the very end, he even says, "I just enjoyed floating in space. Like we brought him here. Like he was just having a good time, and he wasn't replicating when he was like that. He was just floating around. And then he's like, "Oh, it's
like a defense mechanism." Yeah, yeah, and the whole aspect of making him the villain, right? And then like the way that everything turns around in the end, it's like, again, it's playing upon the fact that like who's the real villain here, right? Like, and it really all comes down to like Amanda Waller, like when you're compartmentalizing secrets and like you're falling into like a governmental structure, and it kind of is like it's kind of like an allegory, right, for like black ops kind of missions and things like that. That do take place in kind of like the real world. So it's kind of like, like shadow government stuff is obviously never upfront or good. You know what I mean? In their purposes and things like that. So
it's super interesting. I just looked this up. I was looking up. There's like a series. What is this? It's a comic book series from DC Comics called The Brave and the Bold. Yeah, and it's super interesting because the first comic ever that Starro was in was issue 28, which is when Justice League of America starts. So the first 24 issues is Golden Gladiator, Viking Prince, Silent Knight, and Robin Hood, right? So like very interesting. Then 25 through 27 was Suicide Squad, and then Justice League America starts for the next 3 issues. So that's super interesting that they decided to use such an old character, and it happens to be timeline wise introduced right after the Suicide Squad. Right. And in this they're like changing that up. So that's super interesting. I was wondering that's what they did. They just like looked to the oldest Justice League, like, what happened before that? Let's get that guy.
Yeah, they're definitely using the historical aspect of DC, right? Like DC is a bit older than Marvel. It started with Superman back in like the 30s or something like that. So he was like one of the first like comic book superheroes. He was kind of the way that they play up Captain America. That was Superman essentially in comic books. Was like he was the symbol of patriotism and the American way, right? Like truth, justice, the American way. Like that was the whole premise of Superman, right? and even used him in like, you know, propaganda images and things like that, for wartime and for bonds and all that kind of stuff, war bonds or whatever. So I thought that was interesting when I see Captain America, because I was like, oh, so they really took the Superman route with Captain America with like originally, right? Which, you know, it makes sense with Captain America. I just thought it was an interesting kind of duality between the big two, right? So yeah, I think it's super cool that they're going back to like the authenticity of their universe to kind of like, you know, move into the new age of cinema and comics and things like that. I think DC just has a problem with continuity, and you know, comic book entities kind of do. Because they want to explore all options, right? They don't want to leave anything off the table, because then you don't have interesting stories with the title characters, right? Like you got this character like Batman who's
Yep.
Ah, there
Yeah.
he goes.
Exactly. I understand completely.
Dude, it's interesting too. Like, I'm just like looking more into stuff like this, like, because I clicked on the Suicide Squad link in Wikipedia just to check
Keep
that out.
going. Go.
Oh yeah, keep going. You're back. That was quick.
I was just saying, like, yeah, you have like a character like Batman who's like guaranteed to sell, but you want to take him on all these interesting tangents. So it kind of feels like, again, the DCU, we've talked about this before, we touched on it before, they just have a problem with continuity. And I think that, like you said, if they can use that model of, well, this works, let's run with it, with the DCEU as it pertains to Suicide Squad, then yeah, you should have a bit more of these movies that come out that are a little more humorous, but still have that dark side of the DCEU, like a villain based DCEU that could, or a villain, I guess, center pointed DCEU, where you can fully flesh out the more relatable characters of the DCEU, which is what we talked about last time, in the villains, and then kind of center point, you know, the universe's growth around those characters, and then kind of like flip it on its head and make the hero characters be more of the imposing force, or the gods of the world, and kind of how the normal people see those godly figures, right? Like a lot of people will jump on that bandwagon, and a lot of people will be against it, right? So a lot of people will be like, you know, hey, like I resent this authority, you know, kind of thing, and that's where the villains come in. So I think, having a villain tilted DCEU is probably the way to go, and then you can have more of a, you know, because the DC universe in general is supposed to be darker, even though you have actually more characters in the DCEU that are more like, I'm not going to kill, right? Like, so like Superman is the most powerful, you know, being in the universe, and he kind of has that dynamic, as well as Batman's one of the most interesting characters, partly because of that dynamic. He won't kill, you know, whereas Marvel is kind of like, they're kind of like, you know, gunslingers. Like, they don't really necessarily care.
I was going to say, it's not that they like intend to, it's just like they're not keeping watch of it. Like, remember later when what's his face, Tony Stark was like freaking out because he realized how many people died when they were like, catching the island that they lifted and dropped, or not island, but just the chunk of land that they lifted, the city.
City.
Yeah, they just picked it up and dropped, and like how many people died from it. Like, they don't really just mention it. It just happens because that makes sense.
That's realism, right? Like, you know, when you're doing all this crazy shit, like, there's going to be casualties. So like, to them, it's always just a reality. And I think in DC, like, I guess more in the comic books, because in the DCEU, it's definitely not that way, right? Like, I mean, even Batman's getting in on it. Like, he's just like knocking dudes' heads around, and he really doesn't like. And they introduced that, like, Batman versus Superman. He's like, he doesn't really care anymore. He's so
broken.
Yeah, exactly. He's so like gritty and hardened by, you know, 20 years in Gotham, and you know, he's probably given so many criminals a chance, and they've just repeated and repeated and repeated. He's just kind of like, all right, well, you know, I got to do
it. And the
now,
Robin Hood, and Robin Hood, and Robin, because later Robin.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, like, again, you know, I watched the Justice League Snyder Cut maybe a couple times already, so like that's numerous hours of my life that I've tried to pick apart kind of like the Justice League as it currently is. And I think, you know, there's a lot of plot holes that do occur when it comes to like even the Snyder Cut, which was, you know, leaps and bounds better than the original Justice League, but it still has a lot of plot holes. I think actually Suicide Squad is so clean, and when it comes to that, like, there really isn't a lot of plot holes. It sets you up with this, you know, again, here's the mission, here's the set of characters, here's what you know is going to happen based in the boundary of what this team is. And it kind of sticks to that format throughout. And they still do open some doors, like, you know, hey, what happens with Bloodsport? You know, you have Peacemaker, you have the Suicide Squad that now is a very cohesive unit, and it actually is a very likable unit. Like, you don't want anybody to die from this unit, whereas the last unit was kind of like, well, yeah, they're cool, but I don't really care about them that much. Like, you know, if they do die,
they did a lot better in this one of making you care about each individual one. Like, what's his face? King Shark was just like a cuddly teddy bear almost. I know he ate people, but like that, yeah, that's what they care about. You know, the polka dot man was kind of, you know, just somebody you just felt bad for. Like you said, like you could tell like people hated him and he had a terrible upbringing. You know, Bloodsport's doing it for his kid. Harley Quinn is not such a psychopath. Still is, but not as much. Which, by the way, I'd have to say, like, one of the coolest scenes in the movie was when she was going off and there was like the flowers exploding in the background.
100%.
Like, you know, so like that was pretty clever. But even Peacemaker, like, he's so funny. That's the part you like about him, right? He's charismatic, all that. Like, so each character you liked and didn't want to go for various reasons. Where I definitely agree. Like when Diablo went up, I'm like, oh, he's gonna die. Like, I figured that. Where like Polka Dot Man, I didn't know until like the scene was happening.
Yeah.
Right. Where like superhero. Yeah. So it was they definitely, you're right. They did a great job building the characters up and making them each interesting in their own way and as a team. Like even the Milton thing was kind of funny. Like they kept slowly like he was in there for like a huge amount of time, but you don't really see him as much, but they keep showing him slightly more and more and more until bam. Like so it was really interesting.
I had a whole camp of freedom fighters. How did they not alert me?
Right.
Turned them into my mom and killed them.
I love how everybody's just looking around like, oh shit. Like we're not gonna sell them the truth, right? And then Polka Dot Man just comes out with it. I think even like a character like Ratcatcher 2, right? She kind of, because of her kind of chaotic neutral standpoint, like she's not like bad, right? And she's not necessarily good because like you don't have, or I guess you don't have that like strong moral code. Like she's on survival mode, right? So she's like she'll steal. She's
like Catwoman.
Kind of, yeah, exactly.
Like on the moral compass, like
rats.
Exactly, she's Ratwoman essentially. But so having her as like she kind of holds the glue of the team together in terms of like the moral compass to a degree. Like
even her little mouse, her rat. Yeah, but like that they're made like, yes, Sebastian, like the whole idea was that like having that little cute character made her like the Ash Ketchum and Pikachu combo. Like it's just that idea that, you know, you didn't want her to go because obviously the mouse or the rat would go. Like that's kind of the idea.
Why would I want to leave?
But the entire time she's not like bitching about what's happening. Like she's not being like the hall monitor, you know what I mean? Like she's just kind of going along with the right. Like they're legit killing numerous people, and she's just kind of like, well, all right, these guys are really good at killing people, I guess, you know. Like she's not like trying to be like, no, stop, don't kill these people, and be the reason. Like again, she's not hall monitoring.
They're freedom fighters.
This movie, you know, like so. To me, it was like, again, she's a very likable character that I could see, you know, in the DCEU moving forward as becoming more of a heroic character or having a different path kind of carved out for her. And even Bloodsport, I think he can turn that route as well. Whereas like, I guess, you know, he's good at killing, so that's going to be a hard route to be for him. But like Ratcatcher 2, she's more or less just a thief, you know, but she has a really, you know, kind of underrated kind of power set, right? Like where you're like, oh, she controls rats. Like, oh, okay, that's cool. But like, yeah, rats are everywhere. So as you can see in the whole, but it's true. I mean, like any major city you go to, there's a ginormous rat population. Anywhere that there's a bunch of human beings, there's going to be like probably just the same amount of, or if not more, rats, you know, in that city. So she actually has a really OP kind of power set.
Like in Gotham, and she just turned that on. Just
crazy, yeah.
Because it's technically like New Jersey, and New Jersey's disgusting.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned like that was kind of the idea of like New York City was Metropolis and Gotham was New Jersey, and they're across the river.
Yeah, it's But yeah, I think it's a much more interesting team, dynamic team. Again, there's a lot more routes moving forward when it comes to not only another Suicide Squad movie, but a lot more DCEU kind of universe building if they take this opportunity to grab onto it and actually and it seems like they might be, because like the whole Peacemaker miniseries show that's coming on HBO Max. So
when did they announce that, by the way?
I don't know. I saw it when I was doing a little bit more research.
Yeah.
Into the movie, and just like the characters, I was like, who the hell's Peacemaker in general? Like, what type of character is he? And like some articles came up. It had to be close to the either after the release, right after the release, or like maybe a week after or something. I don't know, because I saw it pretty much right after I seen the movie, and then
that's why it's interesting. Like, I feel like what they should have done was like they release the movie and then like wait a week or 2 weeks when it's like still being talked about but dying down, and then announce it, because I'm sure there would have been more people who probably skipped the end credit scene, then suddenly hear that Peacemaker's got a TV show and been like, wait, what? And gone back. Yeah, it just seemed like weird marketing, because like we knew about the show like really quickly, and it had just come out.
I heard someone mention the end credit thing. They're like after the other end credit thing. I was like, oh. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just waited, and then I was like, I got nothing else to do at work. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. I kind of wish you guys watched Titans.
I've seen 2 seasons of it.
I haven't not seen any of it yet.
It's not like that great, but the third
yeah,
season,
there's
so it's not going to be good.
Well, their Batman is definitely not the Batman that's in like Under the Red Hood. He's
right.
Different. Yeah.
I was about to say, is that Batman like the Superman that appears in Supergirl?
No, the guy that plays Batman is cool. It's just like
he's from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he's the. Well, he hasn't really watched Game of Thrones, so.
Yeah, if anyone's watched, well, I have a good reason for not watching it. Someone spoiled the very first season's ending.
He's also like, I think that villain. Never seen these movies, but I know he's in it. He's in Resident Evil.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't like Resident Evil. That franchise is terrible.
Say that louder so all the people in the back get like real angry. Like
terrible.
What's terrible? You gotta tell them.
Can you put like a little I don't know, layover of
just saying put the terrible? Banner. Greg, the banner on the bottom, just put it in there real quick. Make sure you say heck from Hector. Like, yeah, we don't want to be associated with that.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. No,
I'm not seeing any of them, so I couldn't. Or if I have, they were so unmemorable, I don't remember.
Yeah. So like, if they take this opportunity to kind of do some really interesting universe building, hopefully they do. The Flashpoint. Yep, exactly. Terrible. The fact that they have Flashpoint coming up. The fact that they have Flashpoint coming up gives them an opportunity to pretty much completely rewrite the entire DCEU as it stands right now, unless they are gonna like really make the Snyder cut the kind of foundation of the DCEU. If they do that, then you already have this goal in mind, right? Like you already have the premise of Flashpoint already figured out, and there's really not a lot of surprises to that.
The next DC movie isn't until March of next year. I was just looking it up. I was curious, like, if there was anything directly related to this after. And the next movie is Batman. The Batman. Yeah. Ironically, it's the Batman. That's fucking hilarious. I just realized that it's March. Yeah, but it's funny that it's called The Batman because, like, this was The Suicide Squad. What's the next one? The Superman. Like,
this is.
Wait, it could be The Supermen.
No, it's DC's League of Super Pets.
They can do The Superman, and it can have Bizarro.
Oh my God! Black Adam's the one. July.
No. Yeah, Black Adam. No, also too, like they've set up like a Clark and Lois where now you expect them to have a kid. Like now they're married, and like it's kind of that whole the son of Superman, and you could have because they've set up. Okay, there's already a Robin, a Tim Drake Robin who's died, right? Or is that Tim Drake or Tim Drake dies, doesn't he? No.
I'm pretty. Which Robin? Yeah. I was gonna say that doesn't sound right.
He's the one that died and supposed to come back as Red Hood. Titans. But
Oh, Dick Grayson. None of us are right.
What?
Dick Grayson isn't the one who dies.
It was a lot of fun. Snyder revealed that the deceased Robin in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice was intended to be Dick Grayson and not Jason Todd, as in most incarnations.
Wow.
Yeah, so Jason Todd. So yeah, Greg and I were right. Like that's
Okay.
the one I thought, but apparently he's killing off Dick Grayson, which isn't he the one that becomes Nightwing?
Yeah. So I guess what they're saying is no Bat family. There's not going to be a Bat family in this universe because he's already learned his lesson.
Yeah, but no, they're also making the Batman. I'm already confused on that.
Isn't that not tied with?
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
not connected. It's not connected.
So, yeah,
it's not going to be in the DC universe at all.
I think it's
its own thing.
Because supposedly the Joker and the Batman are supposed to be in the same universe.
so. I think what they're doing is they're really reinforcing this is a multiverse, right? So like they can have all of these different strains of the same superhero, just like how they're making with comics. So essentially, you can have the Batman and the Justice League versions, like they're all just in separate universes. So that cinematically, we can have a trilogy go on in this way. That's the Batman, right? And it won't ever intersect with the Justice League of this one. They could even make a separate Justice League in its own universe, essentially, that never interacts with, or because of a flashpoint, you have some form of interaction, some universal interaction.
Yeah.
But I think that's what they're doing. They're really reinforcing that the DCEU is much different from the Marvel, cinematic universe, where there isn't really continuity, and the only continuity is there's no continuity.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah,
Fixing
right.
The problem by not fixing the problem. So
exactly.
Yeah.
They're kind of diving into the something that people are kind of disturbed by, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I guess it makes sense, right? Like you can have all these different multiple universes and things like that. And I think DC is more stronger in which, like they have multiple iterations in comics. Like you can even go onto the DC like website and they show you like Earth 616, Earth, you know what I mean? Like 124. So like, and all these different iterations of the Justice League and all the different characters and how those worlds turn out. So it's actually something that's foundational within, DC Comics.
Yeah.
So it does make sense.
The show The Flash, which I stopped watching, like I don't even know what season. I think the Thinker season was the last one.
Good. Don't waste your life, Greg.
Yeah, no.
No, I want to finish watching all those. I'm a couple seasons behind now on all of them, though, or a few.
You don't have to.
I like
how
watching
every
them.
episode is. I can tell you every episode of The Flash. Ready? I'm so sorry for nobody that's watching right now, but The Flash. Ready?
He has a problem. He solved the
Here we go.
problem. He has
By
no-
running.
I'm going to go through the entire season with you very briefly. All right.
Run,
So
Barry,
there's a new
run.
villain. There's a new villain, and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm not that fast as that guy."
Let me beat some other villains. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I can kind of run fast. Run, Barry, run. Iris is kind of cool. She's cool. Oh, she's now part of the team. All right. No, she's in charge now. The end. This is the Flash. That's the Flash. I like
Nice.
Arrow better besides seasons 3 and 4. And then
When they started the crossovers, 'Cause that'd be funny.
just 3 and 4. And then I never watched Supergirl, even though some people said that was good.
It started off good. I don't know. I haven't. It's all right.
I agree. I watched the first season of it and I was like, oh, this has potential. And then the next season was just kind of like, oh, this is another CW show. So that's how I felt about it.
Just
Oh, apparently they're making a Supergirl movie.
Yeah,
Didn't
Yeah,
know that.
that's where they
They-
ended it.
they cast a Hispanic.
They're making a Lantern Corps movie.
Yes.
I don't care about any of the other movies. I want to get a good version of that movie because if they're doing a
Ryan Reynolds
Lantern,
again. No, it's not.
That should have been.
I don't
that
even
actually-
care if it's Ryan Reynolds. It's just the fact that it wasn't a Lantern movie. It was just him. I want to see space. I want to just like they did
was-
Guardians of the Galaxy. I want a Green Lantern Corps movie.
It was a terribly written movie, and it wasn't a film. And I think that's kind of what needs
Never
to
saw
happen in the DCEU is I think they need to make films as superhero movies and not focus on
Yeah.
because again, the Joker, right? So that was a film. The Nolan trilogy, those were films. Those were things that had content that was deeper.
That
than
was-
superhero.
What was the director that Scorsese who was saying none of the Marvel movies are film, they're
Right.
they're entertainment, they're
But he's
just,
he's
That's what
he's criticized the same thing about DC, like the Joker. He was very hard on the Joker as well, like that it was trying to be something that like was powerful, but it wasn't. Like it's missing the mark, right?
I think it is powerful, though. I think that's the interesting thing. Is you're right. I think the DCU should do that.
I've watched the Joker multiple times, and even watching it like the fourth, fifth time when he's on the talk show, I still get goosebumps because I'm like, oh, this part's about to happen.
Yeah, no, it was extremely interesting. One of the most full stories you get, like full content wise, and then relatability wise, you see of the Joker, right? And it's kind of more towards like the whole Red Hood, right? Like the original Joker, and it makes complete sense again towards the depth that the DCEU has to offer, right? Like we were just talking about with villains, their villains are extremely relatable and they have a lot of depth. Like if you talk about Catwoman, if you like, again, Batman's probably the only one who has a somewhat relatable story, and with all of their superheroes, all of their superheroes for the most part are very much out of the realm of relatability for most people. Like even one of my favorite DC characters, like Blue Beetle, not a relatable character at all. You know what I mean? Like the old Blue Beetle or the new Blue Beetle, neither one of them.
One of those is gonna be.
Well, the new Blue the Karate Kid series,
Cobra Kai dude,
Miguel. Yeah, Miguel. Yeah. He's cast as the new Blue Beetle. Yeah. So badass, by the way. He's already trained up, so that's fucking dope. And Jaime is actually one of my favorite characters in the DC comic universe, because I think he has kind of he's kind of like that coming of age character.
Oh, we lost him. He also went really quick that time. I wonder if he did that by accident. I had to look up who the Blue Beetle was for a second, and then I'm like, oh, I've seen him before.
Okay. I didn't know Shazam was coming out in 2023. I thought it was coming out like next year.
You sure the second one?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the first one, so I still need to see the first one. I heard it was actually pretty good, but I have not seen it yet.
Funny, so you're not here though, because you're just like a buffering thing.
Actually, he's Sonic the Hedgehog, and he's rolling around at the speed of sound. Now, did you ever play Sonic Adventure? Rolling around at the speed of sound.
You're not going fast. Your buffering thing is going slow. You know, you need Starlink or Skynet. You know, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, once he does get back, we're hitting 50 minutes. We should wrap this up.
Yep.
So then the only thing we have left to talk about is the end and the end credit scene. You should have him kick himself and then reboot.
Kick yourself. I could kick you.
Yeah. Well, no. He's got to leave, refresh the page though, because
if I kick him, then he can't come back in. Yeah, he has to come back in.
Yeah. Anyways, so we'll set this up for when he's coming back. So end of the movie. So the actual final. There we go. He's back. I don't. I'm pretty sure you heard some of what we said, but basically, we're hitting 50 minutes, so we should roll it up with the end of the movie. What we think about the end and the end credit scene. So let's talk about the actual fight scene and ending of the movie. What are your opinions, Hector?
Yeah, like I said, so the wrap up of this movie was pretty much the same as the last movie, right? Like you have this big kind of worldly threat. He has these little minions that are rolling around. Essentially, he takes normal people hostage. Essentially, so it's the same kind of premise, right? Like now we have a lot of fodder for the Suicide Squad to fight with and things like that. I thought it was interesting the way that they again gave the people with the least played up powers the most kind of impactful roles. Besides Polka Dot Man, because he basically died after he burned out the thing's leg, which I thought was super badass. He could have just killed him. He could have just destroyed Starro right there, his entire being.
Do you know what's interesting? So remember how they said they picked every character on the squad on purpose, like they were very specific and deliberate. And later they mentioned that they were going to need King Shark. And I realized when the movie was done, he was completely unnecessary. There wasn't a single moment in the movie that he absolutely was needed for. Like he was a fun character, but like the way they described it, like I thought like he was gonna have to rip something open that like no one else could rip open. You know what I mean? Like there was never a point in which his strength was needed.
I guess what they were just trying to keep him. I think like the script was trying to keep him relevant throughout the movie because he wasn't going to play a like tremendous.
Like when they introduced him, they were like, "You're going to need him specifically to get into Jotunheim."
Yeah, yeah.
And they didn't. They just walked in like.
he made a nice clay,
Yeah.
No, like even like think about it. Even when they fought the Starro, like he bit him a couple times. That distracted him for a couple of seconds, I guess. And like that distraction let Polka Dot Man rip a hole in his leg, kept him distracted a little bit longer, and then basically the rat catcher sent her minions at him, and Harley Quinn poked the hole in the eye that started they got the rats inside to actually kill him. Like that was literally what happened. So like. But Bloodsport at least was distracting him for a minute, shooting those freaking rockets at him. But literally, it was like nom nom, like that's it. Like,
yeah, no, I think
that's as a character for like the plot line, but like he wasn't necessary for the team to get in Jotunheim or fight the monster.
I have no idea what to do with it.
I think that's interesting because it's kind of like, to me, you see that in a lot of movies, right? Where like the script or something that is said throughout the movie isn't necessarily true throughout, right? Like, and then you could just say like, well, that's like people talking. Like I make predictions all the time that don't come true. It doesn't like stop me from making them, right?
But I mean, more
I get
like
what you're saying.
Every character had a moment in which they were necessary, except for King Shark, and he was specifically mentioned in the beginning as being someone who would end up being necessary, and was the only character that didn't have a pivotal moment. That like his best moment, meaning like a life-changing moment, was when he realized he had friends and that he didn't need to eat every person, and that was way earlier in the movie. So like it was just funny because like every person had a pivotal role they needed to play on the team.
He's like Rocket Raccoon needing that guy's like leg, but he didn't need the leg.
Yeah, well, no, he's like the leg.
Yeah, he's the leg.
Yeah, he's the leg that Rocket Raccoon didn't need. Yeah. So yeah, it is kind of funny that it was just like oh, there he is. Yeah, we were just saying that he was like Rocket Raccoon's leg, like that one that he picked up, like he didn't need it.
He didn't need that.
Right? It was cool to be there, like it made it funny, but it was unnecessary.
Up movies because apparently he's good at that.
Well, I think it's like it's kind of a setup for the next movie. Again, they're creating this team where now he's the bruiser, right? Like he's the one who can take a lot of damage. He's the one who can give out a lot of damage. He can, potentially kill a lot of people at one time and, not be fazed by their weaponry pretty much at all.
Do you know what's interesting about him though, is that the scene where the stars tried to like cling onto his face and that didn't work. I thought that was going to be the thing that made him necessary. Like maybe the whole team gets taken over, but he rips them off before they get fully embedded because he was unaffected and he saves his friends. And even that didn't happen. That's what I mean. Like he literally wasn't necessary for the team. He was great for the movie because he made it fun and entertaining, but like he didn't do anything.
No, I get. Yeah, he really wasn't like a critical role player. That's for sure. And I mean, because a lot of the movie was like supposed to be stealth, right? Like they were trying to sneak in and out of places. He's not really.
It's just so funny too. I almost feel like they did that because they're like, man, the CGI is costing a lot. Like, let's have a stealth scene so we can get rid of the shark, the freaking giant walking shark that when they put shorts on him, he looks like a street shark. Like, we need to get Jaws off the or no, was it Jaws? Was that the Great White's name?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it was Jab. Yeah, it was Jab. It was Jab, Streets.
Oh no.
Slamoo. Yes. Jab, Street, Slamoo, Ripster. No, it was Ripster. There you go. And I was gonna get it eventually.
I forget all their names. Anyway,
I love those.
Yeah, my thoughts were that it wrapped up really nicely. I thought again it was like there's a lot of full circle moments for me, and for me like again that was like the wrap up of the similar plot line, and then the end credit scene. I didn't expect it. Like, I really didn't expect it, because I saw the movie and then I read the article about like he's getting his own show, right? So like it didn't ruin it for me. But yeah, it didn't. I didn't expect that to happen. I was like, oh, I guess Peacemaker's dead, even though he didn't die in a very gruesome way. So it was like you kind of get that, like maybe he's still alive.
It was done at a moment that quickly moved away, so you forgot that it wasn't there.
Right.
I think that's what they did really well. Like, you know, back to the exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, based on like the plot of everything else, like he killed Rick, who, like, I was looking into that. Like, he's almost always like the leader of the Suicide Squad, and now he's gone, right? And so it's interesting that like it would make sense that Peacemaker would get capped, right? So like it was just kind of funny that it didn't end up happening. Like, so now they have a TV series. They're like, listen, you killed our hero, and now you're our hero. And then the other end scene too, the Weasel, like it was one of those ones where like I don't know if that was only there to make people think that there wasn't going to be a second one to show, you know what I mean, Peacemaker. Like I almost wonder if that was like just to distract us from that, or if like he's going to play a pivotal role. I think I mentioned that in our last episode. Like it would be really interesting if by bringing him back, because specifically when he died, the Suicide Squad headquarters, which I was trying to figure out what they were called. They're called the Task Force X. That's what they call that group. But it is under Argus, right? So Argus, I believe, has a subgroup called Task Force S that runs the Suicide Squad. And so, yeah, anyways, like when he died, like at those headquarters, like his image went red, which means they recorded him as a death. So now that he's off the radar, what happens if he just runs around? And so it'd be really interesting if like he plays a pivotal role during like the climax of the next movie, or even in one of the tangential movies. Like maybe he just appears in the Peacemaker show that's coming out. You know what I mean? Just for like a split second, like he's in the background, like, eating something.
Yeah, exactly, like an Easter egg kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah. Nice. Cool. We hit an hour.
Yeah.
Definitely a good ending to Breakfast Talk. Breakfast Talk! There it is, yeah. You got it.